Good Monday morning, everybody. Ooh, enough of this winter. Jesus, I'm done with it, right? I mean, it's enough. We've got the lovely Leigh-Ann Mole sitting ready to entertain us and regale us with stories. We've got Bakh'abantu in the studio in Johannesburg. And you got me. I hope you're ready for a nice morning. Hope you're ready to get stuck into some stuff. So how are we? What's happening over there? Ass, how's the hip?
Well, the novelty's over, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's not cool anymore.
Like, let's just take this cup of tea, for instance.
Right.
How do you think it got here to where I'm sitting, when I've got two crutches?
I don't know. How does it work? Because last time I was
how does it fucking work, Gareth? How does it work? How does it work? How does it work when your hands are in these and you have to put water in the kettle? How does it work when for 10 days you've bathed with a cloth out of a freaking basin?
Oh, you must be so over it. You must be so over it.
How does it work when I have to take an Uber to go and get my hair washed?
Oh my God. All right. So,
and also, yeah. Good.
No, but I mean, it doesn't help that you hate relying on other people, but you kind of have to at this point, right? That must really drive you crazy because you're independent. You like doing your own thing. Ugh.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the biggest reality checks was speaking to 25-year-old Matthew at the medical aid, who sounded kind of hot, and asking him how I claim for a toilet seat raiser.
Oy.
You know those things.
You can't go down that far anymore.
Yeah. So there's that. And then the delivery guy arrives, right? So after I've hobbled there for 45 minutes, he's waving. It's in a clear plastic bag, this big granny toilet seat raiser, and he's waving it in the air like he just don't care. He's just happy he's arrived with it. And everyone in the street driving past can see. So that was fun. I mean, never mind getting to the toilet in time. You know, you have to prioritize. Like, you don't turn on the light because there's no time for that. You start taking your pants down with your knees before you get there.
Leigh-Ann, this is horrible.
I'm like, I'm trying to walk and there are cats on the floor path. Why are there cats on the floor?
Yeah.
You know, I came here for a little bit of a rant because I'm too proud to rant to the family.
No, go for it. You can rant to us anytime. Some people will find it hilarious. Some people will feel sorry for you. Some people will go, oh my God. But by the grace of God go I, you know?
I've been feeding my cats with a long spoon, hoping that the pellets land in the bowl. Let's just say they've eaten more from under the tumble dryer with their little paws than anything else.
Oh, Jesus.
I found myself watching self-help videos on how to hoist your leg into bed with a belt.
Oh no.
And then, you know, once you've got into bed, you sound to the neighbors like you've just had the best sex of your life. Yeah. And then you realize you've left your cell phone in the kitchen. So now I'm wearing an apron and I've got a pouch like a fucking kangaroo. So I keep everything in the pouch.
So how did you move with the tea? That's what I'm interested in.
I had to bend the rules and use falling crutches, another thing. I had to use one crutch instead of two.
Uh-oh.
So, I mean, you've got to make concessions sometimes.
So the optimist in me says there's a business opportunity here. Anyone listening, make crutches that have cup holders? I don't know.
I was thinking like little umbrella shoots that come out in spikes at the bottom or something.
Right.
Yeah,
because that's not great. What else? Oh, the blood thinners have caused eczema on my eyelids.
Oh no.
Good news is I took the plaster off of the wound after 10 days, which is supposed to happen. But now the stitch knots are catching on my PJs.
Oh God.
It's not good.
Oh.
There's the constipation from the painkillers. It's literally like giving birth to, you know, when you find an old brick that's covered in bits of knobbly cement. So my poop shoot's not thanking me right now. I know it's going to be a disaster every time I go. I have to play games on my phone to distract myself. Yeah, and then on top of everything else, my dad went for a pacemaker replacement this week. So now he's the C of A. You know?
Yeah. Center of attention.
Hey,
Fuck.
thanks, guys.
It sounds so fucking totally shit. So let me understand. Like you've got one leg that is absolutely fine and that you can use as normal. But
no,
actually,
remember that both are not good. Were not good. So I'm kind of recovering on a bad leg as well.
Yeah.
Mm. Are you trying to find the positive?
No, I'm just trying to figure out. I'm just trying to figure out how it all works. I mean, this is so fucking frustrating for you.
It doesn't work, Gareth. That's what you opened with. It's not working.
At the end of it, I can only laugh about it and also wish that I think the thing is you should find someone to marry just for your hip replacement recovery time. You know,
you should be able to have like a temporary husband just for a short while. You know?
Yeah, like let's go back to some Piwa's cuddle services. This is an expansion of the business. Again, very business oriented this morning. Yeah, live-in husband for 3 weeks.
Well, Hardy
for
Dave
for free because everything costs a lot.
Exactly that. He says, sounds like you need a strong young man to pamper you and carry you around.
Well, it's not going to be 25-year-old Matthew, is it? When he knows he has to move the toilet seat raiser off every time he goes.
No, because like he's not turned off of you completely. Maybe he was interested.
Also, it's not going to be the delivery guy who's waving.
Maybe you used your sex voice while you were talking to him on the medical aid, and he was like, "Oh, wait, hang on. I'm sure I recognize this girl's voice from those sex ads." But then, as soon as he knew what you were ordering, he would have been like, "Oh God, no!"
Exactly.
Jesus,
guys. Yeah, so thanks for for allowing me to do that. And then just to note that I'll be doing it to the other leg too. So that's fun. I think that's where the super brain power really lacks a bit. So when you realize you'll have to do it again.
You know, I was going to complain about a few things this morning, but I don't think I will now.
Matthew just entered the chat. Yes, he is turned off. Confirmed.
Side eye.
Jesus, guys. I mean, I woke up with a little crick in the neck, but I dare not say a fucking thing.
Gareth was sniffling and he was complaining like, "Oh, it's Monday. Yeah. Oh, Leigh-Ann, no, Leigh-Ann, we are all better because we don't have a hip replacement."
I'm not going to moan at all. I'm like, shut up,
This
Gareth.
is a great week. Yeah, no, Gareth, you don't deserve. You have the best life ever. You have 2 hips and no crutches.
Yeah, right. Jesus.
And I mean, there are people, let's be PC about this, who have to deal with these problems every day of their lives. So hats off to them.
Yeah. I mean,
if you have any solutions,
you eventually will come right and you will be able to do normal things again. But some people don't,
Exactly. There's hope.
Sure.
That's the most depressing "there's hope" I've ever heard. There's hope.
Well, you know what else is fun is pouring yourself a glass of wine and then you have to drink it in the kitchen. What else are you going to do? So you kind of intersperse it with tuck biscuits and snacks in between and pretend that you're at a cheese and wine.
Okay. Why don't you shove it in the apron? Why do you get like a big apron and shove all these bottles and then wobble around with like clanking and clanging?
Well, I mean, the obvious first thing is to use like a thermos flask for your wine and your tea.
Yeah, it is. But I am degraded enough. You know what I mean?
Oh, so you mean it's like you don't want to add to the humiliation of it by drinking things from a thermos flask? Okay, I got you.
And also, I think when we last spoke, I was still high on fentanyl and propofol.
Yeah.
So that's
those have worn off.
Okay, well, here's the solution, Leigh-Ann. Move the bed to the kitchen. And then just get one of those big hooks. Get one of those big hooks and with these claspers and just clasp everything.
But also, it doesn't help that it's been so fucking cold, right? Like last week was the coldest week. Last week was the coldest week of the year and probably of the last 5 or 6 years. So it's thoroughly unpleasant.
Like last week was the coldest since 1970 something in South Africa. That is.
Yeah.
Or Southern Africa.
Rough.
Yeah. So it's been rough. It's been rough on everyone, Gareth.
It was just the day after. It was the day we last spoke that it snowed. Straight after we'd finished.
Yeah.
Did it snow in Epidemic?
No, definitely not. But I did see lots of videos from all the people in Johannesburg. Well, in Sandton mostly. I mean, that's where it was snowing, I think, the hardest. But it looked beautiful.
And Gareth mocked me. I'm like, it's snowing. He's like, oh, in Joburg.
No.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it is snowing.
You did make. I mocked you because you made a ridiculous snowman that was about 1.5 inches tall. I mocked you about.
Size doesn't matter. Size doesn't matter, Gareth.
I didn't mock you for the snow. You're not God. You didn't make the snow.
Okay.
You just made a shit snowman. That's what you did. So take your credit for your shitty little non-creative snowman. That's what.
But if we're talking about the weather, right? So the weather's been rough on everyone, right? But like, imagine like, so Leigh-Ann is saying like, okay, her life is terrible. But imagine if you were a sex worker working on the streets.
Oh, Jesus.
Like,
yeah,
like you can't work if it's ridiculously cold. Could they do the mini skirts and the high up?
I don't know. No, I don't know, because they get to go to a warm bed.
No. These are the high end ones. You're talking about escorts, Gareth. I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ones on the street. Like, hey, 5 rand for a blowy.
They get some body heat. I mean, they get to warm up with someone else, unless that person is like, I don't know, geriatric.
They get all that attention.
Yeah, all that
silver lining credit.
I can't believe we're busy comparing our lot to prostitutes.
Yeah, but like, but the bright side, silver lining, Gareth, is that the ones that get high end, I'm sure people are cuddling up a storm. They don't even have to work for it anymore. Like you get an escort, you put them in a hotel room, and then you just cuddle with them because it's so cold to do anything else. I'm sure these people are raking it in. The poor ones, I'm sure, are broke, but the rich ones, I'm sure, are rich.
Well, someone said to me over the weekend, we were talking about business. He said to me, there really isn't a middle class in South Africa anymore. You know, the middle class used to be able to do more than just survive. And at the moment, people are either rich or poor. The very rich, the sort of the top, 2% of people in South Africa are living extremely well. There's nothing that can really... They'll never be poor. They don't worry about the price of anything. They don't think about things like heat or electricity or water because they've got backups of backups of backups. You know, the super rich are absolutely fine. And they always will be.
Yeah, it's like the middle class used to go to salons for the day or day spas. They used to go on these like surprise holidays on the whim. That's not happening anymore.
I know so many people who've just they don't do holidays anymore. They don't get away because they can't afford to.
Because you can't take time off work because you have to work all the time. Also, you can't afford to pay.
Right.
It's an extra expense, so you just cut it off. It's a want, not a need anymore.
And you can see that luxury businesses are struggling here, and entertainment is struggling. I mean, you know, bars, restaurants, nightclubs, those kinds of things, just they're not in the numbers that they used to be. There are far less options, even for the rich, because the rest of us are like, well, we don't have tons of cash lying around, spare money. And I think that's a very sad realization. It's partly a result of what the world is at the moment, because it's tough out there no matter where you are. But then it's also, you know, it's our government being just extra shit at their job. And it's the fact that we're still, and people don't like to acknowledge this, but we're still dealing with the effects of COVID on the economy and on people. And a lot of people took an enormous amount of strain that they didn't acknowledge at the time, psychologically. People have been really fucked up by this thing. And yes, a lot of people have lost their income, and a lot of people have lost a lot of business. And all of that could have been prevented. All of that was human. And forget about the actual disease, which killed such a tiny smattering.
That's what I was going to say.
It was what we did in reaction to it. And I'm gonna try and avoid a rant, because we already had one of those this morning. We can only afford one a day. But there's still lots and lots of people
who can only afford one.
We can only afford one rant a day. That's how poor we are. But I'm still waiting for accountability and responsibility there from people who made absolutely terrible decisions.
Mm.
And we won't get it. It's never going to happen. You know?
So now, like you said, Gareth, is the poor of the poor, right? Which was me, like what, a month ago when I stayed in Braamfontein and I had to look at load shedding schedules. But now I stay in Sandton, and what do you call it? Eskom's push has become irrelevant in my life. I'm not like doing this whole what schedule am I on? I just have water. I hear people complain there's no water. I'm like, wait, where? In Joburg?
Well, I watched the sport yesterday. I watched quite a lot of sport this weekend. I watched Wimbledon, obviously, was the big highlight. Jesus, that Alcaraz absolutely cleaned up. First of all, Novak Djokovic is superb, right? And I've always thought Djokovic was bloody amazing. I like the guy. He's a real class act. He did have a little temper tantrum somewhere in the middle where a racket was bent out of shape. But other than that, I mean, his speech at the end was beautiful. Alcaraz, this young guy, he's what, like 20? It's just amazing, this 20-year-old. And the way this guy can return a serve is just
can return a serve from Novak Djokovic, an ace from Novak Djokovic.
Astonishing, right? Astonishing.
No.
Ryan was pissed off.
People are okay. I hate Djokovic, right? So I was a Nadal fan growing up. So I was too young for Federer. So Nadal came along. I liked Nadal, liked him, the king of clay, like absolute best. I didn't do the whole claim that what Roger Federer was born in Durban, right? Or his mom was born in Durban. So I didn't do the whole he's South African, so I have to like him. But like when Djokovic came through, that's when I realized I can separate the art from the artist. This man is a beast when he steps into that court. He kills everything. He is absolute talent. But obviously, there's the temper tantrums, there's the arrogance, there's a human side. But when he steps onto that court, he destroys. This man is the greatest tennis player to ever exist. I was having this debate with producer Ryan just before we started the show. I'm like, you have to admit, feelings aside, pound for pound, this man is the greatest to ever step into that court.
Yeah,
but Alcaraz did have the upset. So it is an upset.
Listen, everybody goes the greatest of all time. I mean,
no, it's recency bias.
I know, and people were saying that while Bjorn Borg was playing, and then they were saying that when Boris Becker was playing, and then they were saying that when Pete Sampras was playing, and then they were saying it for Roger Federer, and then for Nadal, and then for Djokovic, and you know what? They'll probably be saying this for Carlos Alcaraz at some point.
Oh no! But you have to remember, right? Recency bias aside, remember that girl who beat Serena and the black Twitter turned on her. That little girl, the poor Asian chick that got all the racism from the Americans. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a bit of like that, but recency bias aside, Djokovic is not on steroids like back in the day, like when everyone was on steroids and everyone was like juiced up. Djokovic is doing it naturally, and he's not being caught over it, but he's killing it. He is.
Well, I mean, let's talk about some sport, because we don't have to do this at any specific time. We can talk about whatever we want. So let's get into it, because we've got a couple of things to talk about here. So a little bit of Beyond the Scoreboard with super bets, because I also placed some bets this weekend. We'll talk about some of those too. I know Ryan's got some things to say, so hit us with it, Bakh'abantu. Let's go. Let's go. So now, the Rugby Championships, right? We're going to finish up with the tennis. We all know what happened in the tennis, but let's start with the Rugby Championships. New Zealand versus South Africa, 38-20. South Africa got whooped by the All Blacks. All Blacks came out firing. They blew the box away. First half, not even a bomb squad could have saved the Springboks at that time. It was 35. 35-20. Yeah, 35-20. Australia versus... Hey, are you fact checking me live on the way? You know why I know? I know because I lost some money on this, for God's sake.
There we go.
So there. That's why I'm
lost on that spread, right? Well, then Australia lost to Argentina. Argentina was 35-31. Two losses for Eddie Jones now. The All Blacks are now to follow, even harder and whatnot. But now, but then Wimbledon, main event of the season. Carlos Alcaraz. I am calling it an upset. People are calling it youth triumphing over the old. The new guard has come aboard. Gareth is on this train. Everyone is banging and clanging, but I am calling it an upset.
Well, let me tell you, Ryan was so busy on the WhatsApp group. Ryan was all over that WhatsApp. Just bring me that fucking music down, won't you? So loud.
He sounded like the beginning of the Michael Jackson song.
Yeah, exactly.
Ryan was there with the spreads.
Turn the music down. Oh, Dad, I love the music. Macaulay Culkin. All right, so Ryan, just tell us quickly. You were all over this match yesterday. You're a big Carlos Alcaraz fan, and did you place a bet? You placed a bet on him?
I did place a bet. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not a big Alcaraz fan. I've only recently started looking into him, but I just hate Djokovic. So I was gonna bet against anyone who's playing Djokovic, and so I decided to put some money on Alcaraz yesterday. That's why I'm jumping on. I'm here to brag, Gareth.
Good. How much did you win?
I won like $250. The odds weren't as strong as what I thought they would be. I was wondering why the odds were so small, right?
Because these two were so well matched.
Well, exactly. So just before I was studying, so if you go onto the Superbets website, right, they give you the statistics of previous matches and so on. And so I was able to see, Alcaraz won his last 5 games, and I saw that Djokovic won his last 5 games, and I saw they both have 100% win rate on grass. So I was like, you know what, this is going to be tough. And so I was just getting into it, so I put $100 on the overall winner, on the overall win. And I came out at like $250, which is cool.
Which is 150 profits.
I was just dabbling. I was like, because the thing was, it was going to be, everyone was saying it's a Djokovic win. It's a Djokovic win.
I called it first day.
You called it. And I was like, no. I'm jumping in on this.
That's sharp because, the smart money was obviously on Djokovic.
Well, the thing is, the odds are small if you're betting on Djokovic because everyone assumes he's going to win.
Yeah, he's not an underdog.
So it was like a 0.5 win outcome. So if I had put in like, say, $50, you would have won like 75 rand. Like it's not that much. So the underdog was where the money is. You get more odds with underdog, but that obviously comes with more risk. So I just decided, you know what, the risk was better. Let's give it a try.
Also, you bet with your feelings.
I bet with my feelings.
Correct. Yeah. So Ons Jabeur, who was in the women's final, Ben put his money on her. Remember on Friday he spoke about her.
Yes,
and she didn't win. She was very upset afterwards. Beaten by a woman called Marketa Vondrousova.
Yeah,
who was unseeded. Nobody knew who she was for this. Yeah,
she came out of nowhere. She was.
I just find it funny. Like Ben is our sports guy here. Yet you and I are taking all the winnings around here.
Well,
we have the smart money, and then you guys have these feelings.
This just proves to you that even sports betting, where you guys think you know all this stuff about sport, which clearly you're very proud of yourselves, you and Ben. No, we know sport. We know that. I know nothing about sport. I'm the first one to admit it, but I'll tell you something. We've won more than you and Ben have, Bakh'abantu. So maybe sometimes it's just luck, huh? Maybe that's all it is. Anyway, what else do you have? So, Bakh'abantu, what else do you have for us in the sport this morning? I mean, is there anything else we need to
the last one. Only Ben wants this. The Scottish Open, Rory McIlroy. I can't believe I'm talking about golf this early in the morning.
I mean, so this is the Open Championship, which is happening this week, and Rory McIlroy won the Scottish Open with a birdie in the final.
The Scottish Open, yes.
And I mean, golf.
No one is talking about it. Only Ben is talking about it.
I don't know. I mean, golf could be an interesting one to bet on. Maybe that's the one to take a look at.
I've never bet on golf. I wonder how that would go.
It would go boring and long.
It's
like golf.
It's an investment.
I've never bet on any of this stuff before. So Leigh-Ann is even horrified. She's looking at me going, "What happened to Gareth? Here you are talking about sport like you care about it, because I do when I've got money on it."
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what surprised me. But what I'm still trying to get over is the name of the woman winner, the surname. What's her surname again?
Oh no, the other one.
Ondrusova.
That's what my grand says when the bell rings.
All right. Well, if you want to place your bets, you can go and do it with Super Bets. They're very cool. They've got responsible gambling that they support there too. So strictly no under 18s. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation. Toll-free counseling hotline can be reached at 0800 006 008. Otherwise, just join us and have some fun. It'll give you something to talk about at work. You know, suddenly you have a stake in what happens on the field or court or
also extra income.
Extra income it always helps, you know, in this economy.
Just don't bet with your feelings like Gareth and Ryan.
Well,
winning. What do you mean?
If you want to win, do what Ryan and I are doing. Otherwise, listen to Bakh'abantu Ben and carry on losing.
Yeah, George money.
George points out experts often ignore the data. It's because a fresh perspective perhaps bets using data because that's all you have.
I would say they feel it in their bones, but I don't want to hurt Leigh-Ann's fake hip.
You say, hang on. So Bakh'abantu, you say that Ryan is just going with his feelings. He was the one doing the research. He was looking at how many wins they've had on grass each. He was actually paying attention to the stats.
Yeah, no, but like the stats but like at the end of the day, like Ryan said, it was very tight, but Alcaraz was still the underdog.
Yeah.
Yes. But actually, he was incredible. What a game last night!
Now, what a game! What a comeback!
I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. Also, just a fun fact: if Djokovic had won last night, he would have equaled Federer with 8 Wimbledon titles. So,
did you also notice that by the time the game eventually finished, the match finished, it was like 8:30.
Yeah.
So I sat down to watch it at like 3:00, and this will be like 2 hours of my life.
Yeah, sure.
I thought the lady who was like interviewing him at the end was quite condescending. Like, oh, you're a part of the club now, right? Now you can do this. I'm not.
Well, it's his maiden. Come on.
Well, I mean, it's the first time they've had someone different in like 10 years. So maybe that's
the first time we've had a different name.
All right. Okay. All right. I think we're losing Leigh-Ann here. She's like, what? All this sport? This is not what I'm signed up for.
I was just taking my last 2 painkillers and I've like hit panic mode. I'm feeling uncomfortable.
All right. Well, we've got other stuff to talk about this morning. I have to warn everybody that we're about to talk about Jacob Zuma because he has.
Oh my goodness!
I think this is where I need to step out.
What about him?
Ryan leaves the chat.
Yeah, no, this is where I'm out.
All right. So he has been dispatched to Russia, apparently for medical treatment. In Russia. Now, this always, he went to Russia when he was supposedly poisoned.
No, that was
by one of his wives. No, he was poisoned by one of them. Remember, he even said so. And this poor woman, I think it was his third wife, or I can't even remember which one is which. But basically, she was then, in very short order, pushed to the back of the queue, and she's persona non grata now. In fact, I think she's like asking friends to stay over at their houses and things. It's tough being a Zuma wife, but it's even tougher being him. So a day after the country's highest court upheld a ruling that he should return to prison, guess what? He's not around. He's in Russia. Guess what? Someone tipped him off and said, hey, you know what? Numzan, you better get the hell out of here while you still can, because they're coming to put you back in jail. So apparently...
And it's conveniently Russia.
Well,
he's also just been pinned as being behind the truck arson attacks.
Well, we don't have proof for that, Leigh-Ann, but we do need to talk about the trucks that are burning everywhere in the country in 3-4 provinces. Unrelated coincidence much? It's the same as it's the same as the riots in KZN back then. But like he conveniently went to Russia, right, Gareth? That is a very convenient thing. Russia is persona non grata.
Right.
And he's gone to hide there. And guess who told us this? Mzwanele Manyi. What?
We love when that guy comes onto the scene. Whenever you hear from Zwanele Manyi, like 90% of what you're about to hear is total bullshit. But on Thursday, the Constitutional Court upheld a ruling that he should return to prison to complete a 15-month term for contempt of court, dismissing an appeal seeking to keep him out of jail. So the guy just decides, no problem. I'm just going to go to Russia. But I don't know how do you get to go to Russia if you're a flight risk? I mean, surely, if you're about to be sentenced back to jail, surely there's some kind of check or balance at the airport. That's like,
well, he was on medical parole.
It works both ways, though. How do you come to South Africa from Russia when the whole world wants you arrested?
No, probably about right.
I
don't know what's happened here, but apparently,
also we are in bed with Russia.
Yeah, we are totally. It's not immediately clear if he's going to go to custody, back into custody. Prison authorities say they're studying the judgment and will seek legal advice. There's nothing to study, guys. Yeah, and in any case, I don't think there's anyone bright enough in the prison.
What Ronald Lamola is studying. Ronald Lamola is going through the papers. They're like, do we arrest him?
What do we do?
You know that mind map from Beautiful Mind. Ronald Lamola is connecting all the dots. Like,
like he needs to. I mean, these are very low functioning people, and Jacob Zuma's just again outwitted everybody because we all think he's stupid, and people make fun of him. And I've warned time and time again, this is not a stupid man. This guy's as wily as fuck. He's in his 70s, and he's faster, and he's sharper, and he's quicker than any of these people in their 20s and 30s. So forget it. He's going to stay in Russia as long as he needs to.
And he speaks fluent Russian, so it's going to be an easy vacation for him.
Correct. Yeah, right. Exactly. Although, I mean, I don't know how much they really want him in Russia. I think his usefulness is pretty much at an end anyway. But there we go.
Yeah, I wouldn't call him for anything. I wouldn't call him if I needed new hay in the pigsty,
Really? I think he can organize. He can get you trucks.
I think he can get you anything. I mean, he's mobilizing an entire strike force against South Africa's what is it called? Logistical division. He's burning our logistics. He's burning our currency. Yeah. So this man was the strategist of the MK, guys. Let's we not forget. Mshiniwa. What do you think that means, Leigh-Ann?
Yeah. I like what Max Sony has reminded us of Musa Hill.
Musa Hill.
Also, one of Zuma's greatest accomplishments, he showered after that time he nearly contracted HIV. He showered.
Right. Musa Hill. Yeah, that was a thing. We made that a thing. I don't think a lot of people who didn't speak Zulu even knew what a Musa was until that day.
Bad word. Hey, it's a bad word, Gareth.
There is an actual place in KZN called Musa Hill, and he made a speech there once, and all he did is walk up and go, and everybody kind of knew what was coming, and he goes, I am very pleased to be here in Musa Hill. People are like, oh, God. Just in case you don't know, maybe you're new to the party, Musa is a pussy.
Pussy. Pussy, baby.
Pussy.
Right, we have to explain this to people. Snai says, I've always said that too, Gareth. People underestimate Zuma's intelligence because of that resentment towards him. Yeah, people do that with a lot of their enemies. You don't like someone, so you assume the worst about them. And then, they come over the top and they surprise you with a victory, or they surprise you with some kind of really clever strategic move. And you're like, but I'm cleverer than them. Maybe not. Maybe not.
No. You underestimate your enemy at your own peril, guys. Sun Tzu wrote about this. And what? Yes. Art of War? Like, look at what people did to Trump. Art of War, quoting Art of War in the morning.
Well, I don't know if you saw this. Someone sent me a clip this morning of Joe Biden. I mean, this guy's just so out of it. And I know.
Oh, no, what now?
No, look at this. This is so unbelievably stupid. In fact, I've got a couple of stories I want to share with you, but just look at this. So I'm going to just show you on the camera here. It's much easier than me, putting it on the screen and loading it up and everything. So just look at this quickly. So here he is. Yeah, let me just find this. This is what he says, all right? I don't understand this guy at all. He's so dim-witted and nonsense. There's his president music. Look. God save the Queen, man. And look, then he doesn't know where to go. Where do I go? Forward? Backward? Oh. God save. Now, why on earth? First of all, the Queen is dead. She died like last year.
The Queen is dead. Long
There's a
live
new
the king.
He's not saying that in England. He's saying that in Connecticut.
No. Oh God.
What's wrong with this guy? What is wrong with him? He's like, and by the way, they also decided it wasn't worth investigating who brought cocaine into the White House, an illegal drug into the most protected building in the world. And the Secret Service have decided there's nothing to see here. And I wonder who it could have been. Could it have been the president's
first son?
crackhead son? I mean, who else would have brought the cocaine in? I mean, we've got a primary suspect right there. The guy's actually voluntarily checked himself into rehab like 5 times. And he admitted just the other day that he's still looking for the right way out of this cocaine mess that he's been in since he was, 20. The guy's in his 50s, all right?
Oh, guys, Hunter Biden.
What an embarrassment. So we've got Jacob Zuma running off to Russia, but he's at least wily and compos mentis. I mean, the current chief of the free world, the guy who has the nuclear codes, the guy who could start a war that would end humanity, doesn't know whether he's a teapot or a hockey stick. Fucking hell. Really? The Earth is in a lot of trouble if these are our custodians. I've just got to say.
But if we're talking about if we're talking about leaders of countries, Gareth, like what? Did you see what Emerson Mnangagwa did?
Yeah,
in Zimbabwe. He just decided, well, let's just legalize dictatorships.
So this is another bizarre situation. So he's moved to sign a criminal law codification and reform amendment bill, which is known. Of course, they always give them be very wary of what. Give any politician a chance to name anything. They will call it the opposite of what it is, right?
Yeah, basically the freedom bill.
It's called the patriotic bill, and it has been described by some as the death of democracy. So let me explain. It's a huge raft of measures. They've banned opposition rallies, political violence, the use of legal instruments to disqualify election candidates. It criminalizes any Zimbabwean citizen or national caught willfully injuring the sovereignty and national interest of Zimbabwe. And you can imagine how they'll interpret that. That's basically anything Emerson doesn't like, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The language used here is so ambiguous and so broad. That's the problem. And it's written because, again, we underestimate people. We think these people are stupid. The reason why that language is so broad and so ambiguous is that they can interpret it in whatever they want. It's what America did with what? What did America call it?
To get rid of their political adversaries. And this is not surprising for a banana republic like Zimbabwe. But here it is. Listen to this. Those who participate in meetings like what we're having now, you could call this a meeting, right?
3 or more
with
people.
With the intention of promoting, advancing, encouraging, instigating, or advocating sanctions or trade boycotts against the country, and the death penalty for those perceived to have conspired to unseat the government, including individuals acting as agents or proxies for such entities. I mean, this is just... I want to say to all the Zimbabweans in South Africa, because there are more Zimbabweans in South Africa than there are in Zimbabwe at the moment. I got to say, well done on getting the hell out of there. But your country is fucked, and it needs you to go back there and to actually unseat these morons at the top.
And this bill passed. This is not a bill is in the road. No, it's in effect. This man has literally decided that there is no more freedom unless what he says goes. And he will carry on beating this drum, and he is practically legalizing his dictatorship.
Right.
Just want to say something about the Zimbabwe thing. I'm finally watching the new MasterChef, which is that one that I was talking about where the judge died just after they'd filmed. So it's quite interesting to watch. But there's a Zimbabwean contestant. She's fantastic. She's hilarious on the show. But her family emigrated to Australia years ago. They were really bright because they just skipped South Africa and went straight to Perth.
Didn't we say Perth was the racist capital of Australia?
Yeah, they were like,
maybe they made the right. They made the right decision. No, I mean maybe that was smart.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Anyway, not great. We got lots of other things to talk about too. What kind of people would rob and ransack an SPCA. What kind of people would
Oh,
do
no.
that? This happened in
Yeah.
Cape
I
Town
mean,
over the week.
The SPCA
During a
is
4-hour.
What are you
they're
even
selling
looking for
they're
there?
selling books and old clothing for money. So what are you looking for?
But apparently they found cash there. Like they found cash lying around, but I don't know how much cash they would be. Like this has
Oh,
to be an
please.
inside job. Someone's gonna open a veterinary clinic.
So thieves made off with an undisclosed amount of money, equipment, staff belongings, numerous sets of keys at the Cape Town SPCA. They've been robbed and ransacked. Police what cunts. So if you live in Cape Town, please go and help the SPCA. They need you now more than ever.
Dude, come on. Like I've got a special heart for animals, and like police are investigating means we're doing jack all.
Nothing.
It means nothing's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing's gonna happen.
So if you have a generous heart, then these are people who probably need some help at the moment.
If you're middle class, take the 100 rand you were putting towards your
Meal.
salon treatment in a year's time, and rather give that to the SPCA.
Right.
Remember when we had those people neutering dogs and animals in order, like stray animals and whatnot? Like those are good organizations to support, guys, in terms of
Yeah, of
animals and
course.
animal. Yeah. Like I really have a special place for animals in my heart, even though I do kill the rare bull once in a while in the Eastern Cape.
It's a cultural thing. I also kill them. I just don't kill them myself. I had a nice steak on Saturday night. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to pretend I'm superior because I didn't actually slit the throat of the animal. Please,
No,
I'm
of
the
course.
end user. I'm the end eater. So, anyway, listen. A couple of things. So, Bakh'abantu's been saying for weeks now that the end is nigh. All right, and I keep thinking it's not like an Armageddon, like the world is going to come to an end and we're all going to die or any of that depressing shit. To me, it's like I can't wait for the aliens to arrive or for some major fundamental thing to happen. When we talk about like leadership all over the world and how disastrous it is, we see how much is changing right before our very eyes. Artificial intelligence coming in, changing the way that we see work and everything else. But I think it's because we're on the edge of something that's burgeoning. There's something new that's going to happen. I'm quite excited about whatever the next chapter of humanity is. But Bakh'abantu still believes everything's going to end. And you may have a point, because if the weather alone is to be believed, then it's not so much climate change, it's that the weather actually hates. The weather hates this, right? Like that snow in Joburg on Monday. We're all like, oh, it's so pretty. But actually, it's very bizarre in this place. We had Simon Guerin talking about tornadoes in KZN. But Europe is going through a heat wave, which is...
In Italy, they actually had to shut down tourism because it is too hot to be outside.
Wow. Wow. You know that, I mean, Italy's always open to tourists. So apparently this is the intense, prolonged heat wave that is sweeping across Europe. Record-breaking temperatures. Listen to this. Up to 48 degrees Celsius. Now, even in the heat of a South African summer, we don't usually get near.
And Europe has never experienced this. This is like they've never experienced this.
I've been in 43. It was 43 or 44 in Spain once. Well, not once, but I was there once when it was that. And people were handing out, like good Samaritans, were handing out water in the streets. Water, which is more expensive than beer. And the shops that were usually closed for siesta due to the heat stayed open. You couldn't make purchases, but you were allowed to walk in just because of the air conditioning. Oh, and that was hot. 48.
48.
That'll like regender you.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, again, Bakh'abantu might be onto something here. The end is nigh.
The end is nigh, guys. They're calling this the Cerberus.
Cerberus?
What's happening? Yeah, Cerberus. That's what they're calling it.
Cerberus was the three-headed dog that guarded hell.
Yeah, that guarded hell. Yeah, like it's also from Dante's Inferno. But yeah, it's the three-headed dog that guarded hell. So what Europe is experiencing is the Cerberus. And we're experiencing what? We also have snow coming this week again, apparently. So we should look out for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well then this time I mean, so it's my dad's 70th birthday this coming weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Papa
And
Cliff.
we're planning a little thing, but it's during the day and it's outside, and I think it's going to be freezing. See, again,
Oh, dear.
like,
To put his,
what?
yeah, a bunch of
Yeah.
70-year-olds. Whew, that
Mm.
reminds me, it was my grandfather's, shame, that was his 90th, when someone almost died at the party.
Oh, Jesus. What happened?
Yeah. I was in Cape Town, so I don't really remember the story. But let's just say it was so close to end of life that he even let go of his bowels at one point before the
Oh,
ambulance took him off.
Yo,
no.
he came
Oh,
back.
no.
Yeah, he came back from that. Lord knows how. We got the ambulance there in time. But yeah, just be careful with those 70-year-olds out in the cold, hey?
Oh, hey,
Although,
there
you
we
know
go.
what? My landlords are about that age. And they have like rip-roaring parties, hey? They're loving life.
All right.
And I think one of the funniest times was when the party had just ended and I managed to walk outside and move my car so that I could actually get out and about. Bumped into the landlords and they were shaking their heads and said, geez, herding these people out of the driveway is like herding cats.
Look at this map.
Oh,
Look at
yeah.
this map of Europe. So here we go. Here's that where it's red. Like
So
that's
that's the
red
bad
hot.
part, guys.
That's heading up in the like 40s and above.
45. Oh,
Yes.
greater
I mean,
than 45.
Look at the North Africa, right, which we know is a desert. Like Algeria is pretty much one of the
It's
most.
red hot.
It's where they have those solar farms that are like kilometers and kilometers because nothing else is there. They don't have a single tree. It's like rock and red sand. And you look at how that temperature chart just gives you some idea of it's insane. Like Southern Europe is in
Yeah.
just this most intense. And look at Spain alone.
Spain is
alone.
fire
Looks like it's
in a
on
bad
fire.
way.
It's so red that it looks black. That's how red it is.
Crazy.
It's not like the white of the flame anymore.
Dude.
Oh,
Speaking about white, I went like climate change. I wanted to talk about this tomorrow, but they have this plan. It's a nutty plan. Apparently, the only way to avoid global warming is to get like a patch of land, maybe somewhere in Russia or whatnot, painted with this white reflective paint that's going to reflect the sun rays back into deep space. Some guy came up with this brain idea. I'm like, that's so stupid. That's so stupid. They're like, oh, if the heat is coming in, we're going to reflect it back into space.
I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask again. Who are we protecting the Earth for or from? Because Earth is fine. Earth will continue to do fine. As far as I can tell, the warmer it gets in any part of the globe, the better it is for the vegetation.
Yep.
The less people die of cold, because more people die of cold than die of anything else. You know, they don't die of heat. They don't die like that. You can always get inside, or you can always put water in a glass and drink it. You know, they die of cold. Old people especially, they die of cold. So who are we protecting here when we get into this nonstop cyclical downward spiral discussion about global warming? It's just doomsday.
It's the future and our children and our children's children.
Can I stop you there? How dare you, Gareth? How dare you? How dare you? How dare you?
Listen, by the way, a lot of people want to know how to spell Bakh'abantu, so here it is on the screen, just so you know. Because now that you're moderately famous and you're on the show, people are asking about how to pronounce this, how to spell it, and there's that weird little apostrophe there, which is very confusing to people. So, I mean, is this...
That is officially how it's spelled on my ID. But legally, I have an apostrophe in my name.
Also, Bakh'abantu Gushoguti.
Bakh'abantu means, my name is Bakh'abantu Buhlebemvelo Gaq. So, Buhlebemvelo, that's my second name. So what it means, build the people or build the nation. If we build the people directly translated, build the nation if we're going like philosophical.
So what are you doing to build the nation?
Oh, every Monday I'm on the Gareth Cliff Show. Like and subscribe. I am educating the masses. I am the prophet of doom. I am
Protecting the world, Gareth.
I'm protecting the world. I am telling you the end is nigh.
So how do people spell your name if they get it wrong?
Oh, so I've gotten Bakh'abantu. I've gotten how about Bucks? No, I've gotten so many names, but like so when I grew up, so what in the Karoo, so like Buddha people, I just cut it short. I was just like Bak. It's just let's stop at Bake, and then I got Baki.
Lucky says Bakh'abantu.
That's how I grew up. I was Bakh'abantu.
It's actually very cute. Like if I had a little brother, I'd call him Bakh'abantu.
Right.
So I've gotten Baku. I'm like, I'm not Baku, I'm Bake. But hey, guys. So yeah, so I don't know, like Leigh-Ann, what should I go with here? Bake, Bakh'abantu?
Well, Richard says, do you have to say apostrophe when you book at a table at a restaurant, for example?
Yeah, I do.
Well, you see, I've tried that as well because I have a hyphen in my name. Also, Lee is not spelled phonetically. It's Leigh. So yes. I've been through, and then Anne is spelled differently in millions of ways of spelling. So I've either shortened it to ass or just Lee, Lee. I just go with whatever makes it easier for people.
Right.
I'm over trying to be proud of it.
No, so yeah, you see now, Bucky is like the bantam. Imagine people calling me a Bucky, people calling you Lee, because like I also thought like I also used to spell your name as like Jet Li.
Yeah.
Oh, just quickly, because people are probably confused. We haven't had Dr. Hanan on this morning. He's actually away this weekend. He was away. Well, he's on holiday at the moment, taking a well-deserved break. That man works non-stop. So he's not there today.
He needs a break from the rest of the world. Sure.
Right. And
it's not going to be okay this morning.
Right. So he will be back next week. But in case you were wondering, where the hell is Dr. Hanan? He's not on today.
Oh, wait. Sanele had like summarized my name really beautifully there.
All right. Here
Build
it is.
the people, beauty of nature. Yeah. Or beauty of creation. Depends.
And what about Lump?
Lump is not no man, that's my surname. No, so like again with that surname thing, it's an entire Xhosa thing where it's Gaga, but I am Gaga is a kneel, the command. It's a verb, not a noun. It's an entire thing, man. Just call me Bake or Bantu.
I've been called worse things than Lump. My surname is Mole, for crying out loud, and I was born Boyle. Lump is actually quite mild.
So you went from Boyle to Mole.
I know. I need to marry a freckle or a lesion or something like that.
Or a verruca.
Oh, yes. What are those things? A goiter.
Leigh-Ann goiter. That's hilarious.
Slippery so much Pickles. To do, so little time.
Slippery Pickle says, quick, get Leigh-Ann a table. That cyborg woman with the titanium hip.
Coming for you.
Yeah, listen, on the phone, I used to have trouble spelling my name. I didn't have trouble. People have trouble hearing it and writing it down properly. But the surname was worse than the name because for some reason people can't really hear an F and they can't tell the difference between an F and an S. So I'd be Kliss and
at least you went clit. You went clit.
There were one or two clits as well, which is hilarious. but I still think that's way easier than like apostrophes and hyphens and all the shit you two are talking about. That's really difficult to do. I'm always like, look, I'll just write it down. Let me just write it down for you. You know.
Yeah, you see, that's how I grew up. I'm like, okay, like let's spell my surname, guys. Let's stop going with all gaga, gagwa, all these things. Let's just spell it Gaqa. It's not a short name. And then I was Bake. So this is where I come to you, Leigh-Ann. Wisdom from the old hip, from old titanium woman. So what should I call myself? Stick to Bakh'abantu, stick to my guns, stick to the ancestors. Amandla forever.
Sorry, but Becky's still cute.
All right. Let's just stop talking about shit for a second here. There's actually two movies that are coming out that I'm very excited about. There's one coming out now, I think towards the end of the year, Napoleon with Joaquin Phoenix. It just looks.
He's amazing in that. Yeah,
it looks phenomenal. Like they have spent an absolute fortune on the budget for this movie. The costume, the battle scenes, the amount of historical detail they've put into it. It looks absolutely bloody amazing. So I'm fucking excited about that. I won't lie. That's Joaquin Phoenix and Napoleon.
And Joaquin Phoenix is a method actor, so he's gonna kill
do it so well, right? And
he will be Napoleon.
What made me think of this was, well, I mean, even in the trailer, even in the movie poster, I'm going to see if I can find you a picture of it now. He looks like Napoleon. I mean, he's obviously got the hair lip because that's a Joaquin Phoenix thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, he looks just like him.
Just like
brooding,
Napoleon.
Yeah, this brooding, like, kind of Corsican, this angry sort of tyrant look. He's really got it down. Joaquin Phoenix is very, very talented. But what got me thinking about the movies was you called Leigh-Ann Titanium Woman, and Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, is going to be starring as Cleopatra in a movie about her as well. This will be the first time they've made a Cleopatra movie since the Elizabeth Taylor one back in the 1950s or 60s.
Wait, can I cut you off there? There's this Netflix documentary that was in the news where they made Cleopatra black, and it was an entire thing.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Yeah, like this one.
What
was it? Jada? What was the Smiths? Some woke people like.
And they were like, woke. Oh well, the Egyptians were black.
It's interpretive. But we have portraits.
The pharaohs were black. Yeah. Sure, go and take a look. We actually have mummified pharaohs. You can go and see Ramesses II in situ. He's lying there, his actual body, and he's got red fucking hair. So tell me exactly which part.
He's Scottish upstairs and Portuguese downstairs.
Telling you. Go and have a look. Anyway, that shitty one that Jada made. No, but they're making this Gal Gadot one. So obviously, what happened was because she's Israeli and she's Jewish, then a whole lot of people had a problem with, like, why would you make the Egyptian queen Cleopatra? Funny enough, she wasn't Egyptian. She was Greek.
She wasn't. Yes.
Yes.
That's why she was not black.
Yeah. She probably did look a lot like Gal Gadot. In fact, I can tell you something. She wasn't as pretty as Gal Gadot. That's the truth.
But she was. But Mark Antony would disagree.
Well, I mean, I'm also excited about Oppenheimer, which is starting soon. We've been talking about that quite a lot. So there's actually quite a few.
Based on our Oppenheimers, the South Africans.
No. It's about J. Robert Oppenheimer, the guy who started the Manhattan Project and built the first atomic bomb. Funnily enough, they've banned the movie in Japan. Surprise, surprise.
Well, they did suffer the most. Come on, guys. Fat man and little.
Sure.
Well, it was dropped on them. But the Japanese, what if we're doing history, the Japanese did piss off the Americans there. The Americans needed a reason, and they did Pearl Harbor. So Americans retaliated in the worst way possible.
Yeah. Gareth, you're wrong. It's the Egyptians themselves who came out and said Cleopatra was not black. Then they said Hollywood should stop the appropriation. Yeah, I know. That's what we were saying. I don't know where do I disagree with you? No.
Well, we said that.
I think we said that. Sarah, pay attention, for God's sake.
But that's what we said.
That's what we said. All right, we got to move on. We've got lots of other good shit to come, and we've got plenty to talk about. I'm also interviewing this woman who I think you're going to find very, very interesting. Her name is Marion Scher.
Sorry, I'm getting an early start. Bye.
Bye. Okay, bye, ass. We'll see you now. She's got to hobble to the kitchen. Marion Scher has written this book about bullying, which we've got to talk about. And I'm not talking about kids being bullied at school because we've covered that before. I'm talking about adult bullying. And she's written this book. It's fascinating. Who do you think the biggest bullies in the corporate world are? And what kind of jobs are the most prone to bullying? And who are the main culprits of bullying? Yeah. Like, who is it? Who do you think it is in South Africa?
I also want to hear from her because I have a certain thing about bully culture and how people we both have this kick about people should really man up. Like, yeah, like even women, like women up, put on your big girl panties. But I would really like to hear her perspective on like in corporate world and adults and how they handle bullying.
That's all coming right up. Stick around for that and a whole lot more. We will be back in just a second. CliffCentral.com. It is Monday morning, everybody. Up you get. Let's rise and shine. Let's take on the day.
Hi, I'm Barrett Edelstein. Join me for my podcast, Celeb Savant. Today I'm with Sophie Ellis-Bextor.
So right at the moment, I'm at home in London, but after I speak to you, I'm going to pack my bags.
3 of the members of UB40, Earl, Matt, and Jimmy.
Well, we're in the middle of a tour at the moment.
Career retrospective with actors, singers, and entertainment industry experts every Friday morning at 9 o'clock on cliffcentral.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
Anyway, what are the most expensive extras that you have come across?
So the first one is with regards to Rolls-Royce's umbrella. We've all seen Rolls-Royce, the little umbrella that comes. You get your stock standard umbrella and then you get a proper Rolls-Royce umbrella.
Oh.
And the proper Rolls-Royce umbrella, guess how much that costs?
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
All right. Let's get your day off to a good start this morning. It is the 17th of July, and there is stuff happening. Oh, wow. It is, it's cold. It's still freezing. Winter is at its peak at the moment, and we've got a little bit of a downhill towards summer now. That's what people keep telling me. But we got lots of other things to talk about, too. Some news headlines that we'll get to just now. We got to also talk about Leigh-Ann's titanium hip, which it takes her so long now to get to and from the kitchen, poor woman. And she's living on her own, and she's trying to balance like coffee cups and teacups and not spill them and using one crutch, and it's just a disaster. Listen to this. Slippery Pickle has a conundrum. If I put keratin pills inside someone's coffee at work because they were too lazy to make their own over a month to make them orange, like Trump, am I a bully or a prankster? I'm asking for a friend. First of all, I didn't know that and you don't spell carotene like that. That's why I was confused.
I was gonna say, like, I don't know what you're putting in. It sounds like poison.
But supposedly carotene will make you orange over time if you take too much of it. But I thought it was maybe keratin, which would be help your nails and teeth and hair.
That's what I also thought. There's this bad movie.
And I maybe thought it was ketamine, which if you put ketamine in your coffee at work, that would really change things.
No. Like over time, like what? Like say if you watch shows like Mad Men or these woke people that watch The Office, right? And they say what Jim did to Dwight was like bullying. So when you look at it, it's intent only. So I do have this opinion. Intent only does matter to the perpetrator. So if I break, like, so if we're going for like an example, right? If I break your arm, Gareth, by like forcibly like Muay Thai, break your arm using some karate or whatnot, and your arm is broken, the recovery time is 8 weeks for a broken arm, 6 weeks if you're like really a genetic specimen, right? Or if I stumble into you and I fall on your arm and I break your arm, what's the recovery time for a broken arm? 6 to 8 weeks. So so intent only matters to me. Oh, Gareth, I'm sorry because it was a mistake. Or Gareth, fuck you, I broke your arm. Intent only matters to the perpetrator. So if we're talking about broken arms, so whether it's a prank or not, if that person feels like you hurt them, you hurt them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'll tell you what's hurtful to me is I saw this. Apparently, Croc enthusiasts can now buy mini Crocs that attach to their regular size Crocs so that they can wear more Crocs. Apparently, people who wear Crocs buy these things. I don't know what they're called.
But they have these studs, and they have like what, their names or letters or emojis or whatnot.
A lot of, and they're selling like hotcakes all over the world to people who like Crocs. So this is a thing, which is just an awful, awful, embarrassing, terrible thing.
Crocs on Crocs.
Crocs
the end
on
is
Crocs.
nigh. The end is nigh.
Croc to the power of 10. You know, it's really just awful. So I thought we should warn people about that in case they thought that they were going to start their day and have a happy day today. There are people out there spending actual money, hard-earned cash, on mini Crocs that attach to your regular size Crocs. Now,
Who's
I know
buying this stuff? And this stuff who sells. You know, there's a shop. Okay, because I stay in Sandton now, so I have to mention this every time. So in Sandton, where I stay, there's a shop like that only sells Crocs, $700 a pop.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
And those little studs or those little Crocs that go on your Crocs are like what? I think $100 a pop.
So you can buy these things. Apparently, kids are loving them because you basically personalize your Crocs.
Yeah.
So you can put little emojis or little letters or little diamante thingies or little Crocs. I don't know what kind of thing people would put on there. I mean, I find the whole thing just absolutely appalling. Have you seen these things, Leigh-Ann?
Yeah, I'm not into it, but I can see why it's popular.
Yeah, I thought we should warn people right now.
Warn people about there are Crocs on Crocs. There are Crocs to the power 10.
Be careful, everybody. The devil is busy. The devil is making things happen. How is your ordeal of making tea now, Leigh-Ann?
How was your commute to the kitchen?
Yeah, I had to make a choice between weeing, making tea, or having a cigarette. So I did the healthy thing and had a cigarette. Very good for wound.
Good
but I
for
feel
you.
better. Thanks. You know, got to find the silver lining.
Leigh-Ann, as a professional, I think I have to warn you. Those things will kill you. You know that, right?
Yeah, so many things can.
No, like don't mind the hip, don't mind the necrosis, but cigarettes will really kill you, Leigh-Ann.
I'll take you down.
I must say, I really liked my surgeon because you know how many times you go to a doctor and you've got to say, I either smoke or drink or don't exercise, and you know what they're going to say, and you know what's good and what's not. And I said to him, you know, I am concerned about the fact that I smoke, and he said, doesn't harm me. And then he just carried on. I was like, yay.
That's great. Listen, here's something. Some people are. Someone asked just now about if they put carotene in someone's coffee, but if I put lignocaine on the rim of a coffee cup, innocent fun, I know they're going to get revenge.
What is
it's
that?
like those. I don't know, but it sounds terrible. Anything.
So like lignocaine from like. Okay, from like a layman point of view, right? It's this thing that they mix in to numb the pain. So it's slightly like a tranquilizer vibes. So they usually mix it when they
anything that ends in cane, CAINE, is usually some sort of anesthetic, stroke, numbing agent. It affects the neural
network. Right.
Right.
It's either numbing or kicks you up.
Just
so you're still in pain, but your brain can't pick it up.
Yeah,
you're in pain.
Correct.
Yeah, basically.
Correct.
It's a numbing agent.
Here's a really interesting thought before we get into it, because we'll save all these questions about bullying for when Marion Scher comes on a bit later. But look at this quickly. This is an interesting statistic. Nearly 2/3 of Tinder users aren't single. Surprise! Anybody surprised by this?
Wow. Oh, I am actually.
Well, why? Tinder is the hookup spot.
Yeah, you're right.
You're not surprised, Bakh'abantu?
I'm not surprised. People go there to hook up. Well, you know, you were looking for true love on Tinder, so you're tired of your old ball and chain there with her hip problems. So you go on Tinder, and yeah, you hook up, and then you come back home, and then you make her tea, and you put her to bed.
I just think that it shows you how dishonest from the outset so many of these things are. I've never been on any of these dating or hookup apps because I just don't think that the motivation is good. I understand that there are people who have found their true love. They've got married. They met on a dating site or whatever, maybe through one of these apps like Tinder. But honestly, I think that by and large, the prognosis is never really that good because it's a fake place. It's just not real. People pretend to be who they're not. They put up pictures of when they were, much younger and much prettier, and then they lie. I mean, it all starts with a lie, right?
Yep. What we watched? We all watched the Tinder Swindler, right?
Yeah.
Oh wait,
So
like
people-
what? What? Like Rena said this. Okay, but this was about Instagram. But Rena said this: being famous on Instagram is a bit like being rich at Monopoly, right? Like finding your true love on Tinder is it really?
See,
come on.
Here's the problem: is that I think that the incentive structure is bad. Like if you're just trying to hook up, which is what most people on Tinder, they're not looking for true love or for someone to be their partner forever. They're just looking for a hookup for that night, that afternoon, that evening, whatever it might be. And so the incentive structure is built in a perverse way. It's built to reward, like basically humans and sluttiness, like among men and women.
It's like what you call this thing. It's to it's the incentive structure is to feed into our basic instincts of what eat, sleep, have sex, repeat. Yeah, instant gratification. So you get a snippet of this person's life and you feel like you've known them. Leigh-Ann puts up a bio about how oh no, I like cats. So you immediately categorize her as a cat woman. And then you move on, you swipe left. And then this other one has a bikini shot. And then you go. And then you're like, hey. And then she's like, hey. And then you're like, what? You feed into your urges, like basic animals. Instant gratification. It's the incentives. Like, what did you say about Twitter? Anything that's free is like, it's useless. Just like Tinder. Like if you find your true love on Tinder, come on, guys. I'm not saying it's impossible. There's an exception to every rule, but...
Venetia says, I know somebody who's on Tinder and Bumble. She is married, but separated, and the divorce is messy. So she's spreading her wings already. Maybe lots of other people doing that.
Sowing her royal oats.
Yeah. There we go. VB says, Tinder is a digital age brothel. You both know why you're there.
I think I'm still on Tinder just because I haven't deleted my profile and on Bumble. But when I was there, I was actually interested in finding someone longer than just a one-night stand. I mean, I know better platforms for one-night stands. So there are people who think they'll find someone. That's special.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who have, and I'm not going to say that all of it is bad because that would be stupid. I mean, there are probably lots of people who found all kinds of happiness there because it's a great place to meet people. It's a marketplace of meeting people. But I'm
all
saying
kinds of happiness.
Sure, but the incentive is all crazy, right? I mean,
like what gets you in the door, you could find treasure inside, but what gets you in the door is you have to admit it's your basic urges. Like the incentives are what gets you in the door. What you find there, another man's treasure is another man's treasure. Like what you find inside the marketplace is up to you and what you're looking for. But what gets you in the door?
Well, exactly. I'd rather stay single and go back onto Tinder. It was short-lived but entertaining, says Roxanne. Sarah says, Tinder was great initially, say 7 years ago. Now it's a brothel pro max. Rebellious Ruth says, I met my partner of 7 years on Tinder. So,
nice.
Depends on what you're looking for and how you set yourself up there. I think you've got to be very aware of the fact that things are going to be bumpy and rocky and difficult if you're just looking for a hookup. And if you're looking for a life partner and you don't know how to identify those things, and you're just looking at people's profile pictures, I don't think you're going to find it.
No, it's how we use it, Gareth. I guess like all technology, it's how we use it. What the internet did make the world smaller, as I remember learning this concept. Like globalization made the world smaller, so you can talk to someone in America, in South Africa in an instant. But how you use it, some people use that to trade company secrets, espionage, to sell out their countries, to sell kidneys on the black market, or some people use it to perform surgeries. And a surgeon could be in America and a doctor could be in South Africa and they could be replacing a hip.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So it's
all
how
right,
you use
so
it.
Leigh-Ann has a story for us. Maybe this is the kind of woman who if you're a single man, you want to meet. Catherine the Well-Finder of 1954. So just explain who this is, because she could be someone's dream woman. Catherine the Well-Finder. Doesn't she sound like someone whose skills you would require in 2023?
Found this amazing channel on TikTok called, I think it's Viral History. And they just throw in videos from ages ago. And this was from 1954. And it introduces this woman who was a well finder. You know those water diviners? We had one at our house years ago to find borehole water where they use a stick and then the stick moves. I don't know if I believe in this stuff. I don't know how scientific it is, but this woman's whole body acts as a stick.
Well,
she's hilarious.
Those water diviners, they used to take like a branch of a willow tree, and then like if it started,
it looked like a wishbone.
There we go.
Yeah,
to move up and down, then you knew that there was water, right? And that was
Catherine
where you
didn't need a wishbone because everything went through her whole body.
Well, she faltered from her bones.
Yeah, watch this video and then we're going to talk about this woman. She's either possessed by demons or I don't know.
Now meet Catherine Brent of Devon, Cornwall, whose physical reaction to water is so strong that she is literally pulled this way and that in the direction of the underground stream she locates for Cornish farmers. Since she discovered her gift 3 years ago, Catherine has located 300 deep boreholes and has been right 98 times in every 100. Today, she is one of Britain's most successful professional water diviners. How does she do it? No one really knows, but scientists say that her body cells are unusually sensitive to physical and chemical changes in the earth. All Catherine knows is that her reactions are so violent that she is sometimes pulled off balance and ends up flat on her face. This from water often more than 200 feet below the ground. Her gift can locate the whole course of an underground stream with uncanny accuracy, but it leaves her exhausted and white-faced.
I love it, and I love the cheesy music. Like you get this woman flailing around like a bladder on a stick, and she had a high success rate. Hey, 98%.
That's a lot.
For those who couldn't see, she looked like one of those blow up people that are used outside the second car sales place.
The flailing wavy cube men.
Right.
That's what she
but I
looks
mean,
like.
if she was, if it was accurate, then I'll give it to her. But imagine she walks over like some water pipes while she's in a department store.
Right, just to throw in a swimming pool. What happens? Does she like combust? Does she implode?
Turns into a washing machine, and you could throw in all the clothes and a cup of detergent, and she'll do all your towels in 15 minutes.
But she literally looks like she has Tourette's. She's flailing around looking for streams of water. So just like as a prank, just put like 4 glasses of water around her and watch her.
So odd.
No, but what's amazing here is like we can mock her and say, well, it's ridiculous, and there's no scientific evidence that someone can divine water, right? There's no way we could prove that she actually knows what she's doing there, that she's probably just acting and it's sheer luck. But 98% luck.
That's a lot. That's a lot of luck. That's a lot of luck.
Can bet on that.
But But like they did kind of mention the science of it. Her body reacts to the chemicals.
Catherine is about to go for a swim in the Indian Ocean. Oh no, it looks like she's lost control of her body again. Oh my goodness, she's drowning. It's such a disaster. Here she is, flailing and kicking and screaming for her life. And it's not because she can't swim. It's because anytime she gets near water, she loses control of her body. Oh, and she's just shat lightly as well. Oh no.
I love that accent. And like every old timey thing has that accent. Yeah. It's not British. It's not American. It's what I think they call it mid-Atlantic.
No, it's that was proper old BBC English. That was the.
Is that how
what did they call it? Received pronunciation, RP.
Oh, that's right. I love that accent. Yeah, I love that accent.
Oh, that's good. All right, have a look at this quickly, everybody. This is fascinating. So Dr. Jordan B. Peterson put out this and said, is it just a coincidence or is it odds against 8,999,999 to 1 that Charlize Theron adopted 2 black boys and turned them into girls? What do you think the chances are of that? Right.
Listen carefully. Say that number again. Listen carefully now.
So he reckons that the odds that you end up with 2 children who are gender non-binary or whatever else it is, the odds of that are 8,999,999 to 1, or it's just that Charlize Theron is a psychopath, which is more likely. You want to guess?
I didn't know that that both of her kids, that had happened with both.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the one kid growing up who had decided they were another gender.
Mm-hmm.
But both, that's very slim odds.
Yeah, the chances of that absolutely minuscule, but it happened to Charlize because she's so special.
Like let's go back, Gareth. Like, what did your mom teach you about eating? You didn't have choices. Your mom told you to finish your plate before you go play outside. Why are we letting kids decide what they want?
Yes.
Why are kids running the world? Why is Greta Thunberg telling the UN what to do about global warming? So this is the problem. This is the problem. Why are kids deciding? I'm not saying they should not be allowed to decide. I'm not saying they don't have opinions. There are smart kids out there. But to a certain degree, adults need to start adulting and stop what's the word? Outsourcing their parenthood to schools and to churches and to children. Children are running. What kind of asylum lets the asylum, like what do you call it, the crazies run the nut house?
That's what we got.
That's what we got. Like if it was up to a kid, they would have chocolate the entire day. Is that what you guys are saying?
And to think I was so in love with Charlize Theron. I mean, now I'm so put off.
Well, you said it wrong. Charlize Theron.
Charlize Theron. All right, listen. It's time to turn our attention to something really useful and interesting, because we could sit here talking nonsense about Charlize Theron, but Marion Scher has written a brilliant, brilliant book called Big Bully, an epidemic of unkindness. She joins us now. Hey, Marion, very nice to see you, and thank you for coming back on the show. It's been a while. Are you well?
It has. Hi, Gareth. Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm extremely well, thank you.
Well, listen, congratulations on the book. Here it is for everybody to see. It's called Big Bully. And I know you did plenty of research putting this together. It's something which I think many people will find fascinating. But let's just give you a little bit of background in case you don't know who Marion is, because she may have been on the show before, but that doesn't mean you know what she is. She's an award-winning journalist, author, media consultant. She's written much about mental health over the last 28 years. And really, Marion, you were way ahead of the game on this, because mental health has become the topic that everyone and their sister wants to address now. And everybody's, popping up here, there, and everywhere as experts. And of course, there are very few experts that have the kind of breadth of understanding that you do here. We last spoke to you in 2021 about your book, Surfacing, which featured various stories of people coping with depression and mental illness. But we're going to talk today about bullying, and in particular, adult bullying, because we have largely addressed the kind of bullying that happens now, especially with young girls, that happens on social media, the kind of stuff that follows them home, which is a whole lot harder to deal with than the kind of bullying that perhaps we had when, Leigh-Ann and I were at school. But corporate bullying is a real thing, and it seems to be on the rise. And I don't know if there's any way that we are equipped to deal with it, because there's so much of corporate bullying that's just regarded as part of the job. What did you discover? What are the kind of top line findings here? And give us a general overview of how we're doing in terms of adult bullying.
You know, it's interesting. You talk about lots been said about kids, but that's where it starts. And I think what I found was very often that what was a child bully grows into an adult bully. I think that is something that definitely happens. There's several parts of this. It turned out that generally more women bosses came off worse than male bosses in terms of being bullies a little bit in the book.
Really?
And my husband actually mentioned to me when I said something about it, he said, well, maybe because a woman has to portray themselves as being tougher to make it, especially in the South African workplace. I mean, that might be one, but it is absolutely rife. And the other thing that's so bad is, okay, so you're at work and you're being bullied, but jobs aren't easy to come by these days. So the people I spoke to, they told me these horrific stories about how they're being bullied. But when I said to them, well, obviously, you know, why don't you leave? Why don't you get another job? No, I mean, you know, they'd rather stay where they are, be bullied, but, you know, maybe they won't get another job and they've got a family to, you know, provide for. So it's very, very difficult.
Well, it's probably like so many women who stay with abusive husbands because they need the security. Yeah. They need the financial security or the protection or whatever it might be. And it's a lot harder than people think to just up and leave. But it's interesting that, you know, that women, you say women bosses tend to be responsible for more of the bullying. And I do want to get to the real nub of this, because I think it's an interesting phenomenon, whatever the case may be, whether it's because they have to be tougher or not. Are they bullying other women or bullying men as well?
Oh, yeah, no, right across the board. Absolutely across the board. Don't get me wrong. When I say that, it's not every woman boss is a bully, but I mean, far from it. But it just seemed to come up. And I mean, I can't say whether that was my minuscule amount of research. And I see something interesting, Gareth, you talk about when we last spoke, 2021, when surfacing came out. And that led to this book, because a lot of the stories in surfacing on people's various issues around mental health, they were bullied. Mm-hmm. So that's what made me do this book. And I think if you look back, I mean, all of us, when we had the launch and we had a packed house, I was pleased to say, is I saw so many people nodding when I talked about who'd been bullied, and everyone's sitting there going like this. So I think we've all been bullied at some time, but I guess it's our makeup. And you were talking about parenting just now, what tools our parents gave us to deal with it. But it's certainly not easy. And as a woman in the workplace today, that's, again, it's still not easy. If you look how many women CEOs we've got, it's very few. Mm. So those women that are there, you know.
We make a fuss of this because, I mean, it is still a rarity. And women have a very tough time in the business world because they are expected to be like men. But what's interesting, I think in the book, you outline some of this as well, is that the way women bully is very different to the way men bully. There's a passive aggressive sort of thing that happens, which can be absolutely devastating, and particularly for men to deal with. We're not really equipped to deal with like the passive aggressive stuff because we don't socialize ourselves in the same way that women do. Like if men have an argument with each other, they'll usually have a massive shouting match or even get physical with each other, but the next day they're absolutely fine.
Yeah, 100%. It is, you've hit it. It's passive aggressive, whether it's with the women or the men. So it might even come with a nice smile and, sort of trying to be nice, if I can use that word, nice about everything. But behind it, it's such a thin veneer. I know a particular company, and I use the one woman in the book. I mean, that boss is a woman boss, and she changes staff every 6 months. You'd have thought somebody would have twigged and say, no, hang on, something's going on here. She employs about 30 odd people in her organization, and every 6 months there's a change of guard. But it goes on. It's been going on in that organization for years and years and years. Why no one's done anything about it? She owns the business, I must add. That doesn't help.
Yeah. So
no,
look,
Marion,
I mean,
can I ask a question here? So what we're saying is like with the women thing, there is a certain level of overcompensation that they have to do in order to stack up to the men because the corporate world has been so manly.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, again, one thing I want to make everyone watching understand is I'm not yes, I've written about mental health, but I am a writer, I'm a journalist. I'm not a psychologist and I'm not a psychiatrist. So these views that I give are purely from experience of dealing with, people and hearing, hearing these stories.
I mean, you detail, obviously you've changed the names in certain situations.
Yes.
But these are real life stories from actual people in South Africa who've had to deal with this stuff. So, I mean, here's an interesting case in point. Ancient Ether says, worst boss I've ever had was a woman. She just had an unrealistic expectation for everyone in the team to work 60-hour weeks. Afrikaner, he says. So, I mean, this is interesting too, because it does relate to what we were talking about with kids the last time we had you on. And it seems to me that women are much, much meaner in terms of bullying than boys. Little girls are horrible to each other in a way that little boys are not. And little girls have to learn skills and resiliences, which little boys probably never need to worry about.
Yeah, because with a boy, it'll go straight over his head. For instance, when you say little girl, it can be a girl of any age. What's happened in this day and age with social media, as Gareth, you said so rightly, that, when you're bullied at school in our day, well, I mean, I'm ahead of your day, but you could go home, close the door, and the bullying ended. Now with social media, so for instance, a girl, she turns on her whatever social media channel she's into, streaming, and she sees that there was a party over the weekend and all her friends were there and she wasn't there. So that exclusion alone, that hurts. And a boy might shrug that off, but to a girl, that's massive. It probably wouldn't bother most boys.
And there's so many more opportunities, don't you think, Marion, for bullying to take place because of social media and, similar platforms. I mean, if you just think of being part of a WhatsApp group, there are so many passive aggressive and many opportunities to use an emoji even that's bullying in a way, or sarcastic. You can leave a group and that makes a big impact. You can kick someone out of the group and that makes an impact.
Yeah, I mean, there can be threatening emojis. There's one story in the book with somebody actually very nasty. It was a woman in a workplace situation. I'm sorry, it's a little frog in my throat. And the emojis that were sent to her were literally, threatening emojis, kind of saying, I'm going to come and rape you. And I mean, that had a very serious effect on this person. So social media, wow. I must just tell you, there was a program on this weekend on CNN on social media bullying with youngsters, boys and girls, teens. And what was interesting is a group of these mothers actually gone to the High Court to take these social media sites to court because one kid did successfully take their own life. One tried. There was a lot of kids who had done this extreme, dieting because of the images they see on social media, and they want to look like the Barbie doll figures that they're seeing and that kind of thing. And of course, online, you can learn how to take your own life. You can learn how to starve yourself to death quite easily. So it's become a really big, big issue.
But I think that also things have changed quite a lot in some ways very positive, and in other ways I'm not so sure that we've calculated the sum of all of these moving parts and worked out whether it's good or bad. And what I mean is people have been increasingly told, particularly in the last 15 years or so, maybe a shorter period of time if you're going to be more conservative about it. But we've been told, you can't physically, you can't verbally, you can't emotionally, spiritually abuse someone. And if you do, you're always the bad guy. And, you see people online bending over backwards to not say, oh, well, she's put on weight, or he was really, really stupid when he did this or that or the other. So we've almost got this kind of fake puritanical virtue signaling about how nice we are. But behind the scenes, people are actually seething with resentment, and they're nasty as hell, and they hide it. They hide it very, very well. They're good at pretending that they're nice people while everyone's watching. As soon as you turn away and they're actually in each other's company, they become absolutely vituperative and nasty.
But can I jump in here, Marion? It's the internet. Again, like, it's a great resource, but it's how you use it. Like you said, a thin veneer that they put on, the passive aggressiveness. It's very easy for me to bully someone over like Twitter or over whatever social media you choose on, because I'm not physically there. I can reach someone across the world. I can influence, like a tweet of mine about let's say a thick-boned woman. If I'm being politically correct, a tweet of mine could reach someone across the world, and that person could really feel like somehow about it and could take their lives on it. But again, I think this is where the parents come in, and this is where people should be given the tools, and you should regulate the internet as the parent, as the people. You should really not let your kid be wilding on the internet and the social media and whatnot. They should not be left there unfeathered.
Yeah,
like
but
when we're talking about kids.
It's not as easy as that, because as a parent, if you did that, you can do that. Try and monitor your kitten. But, you know, they can walk out the door, they go to school, and their mates will show them their phone and what's been, even if you try to protect them, there is very little protection, really. They're going to see it and they're going to react. And again, I think it depends on the strength of that child, on whether you can say to that child, oh, darling, don't worry, ignore them. We've all had that when parents have done that. But can you really ignore it? I remember when social media, I used to have a column in Biz Community Marketing, online marketing page. And when the very first time, I'm used to writing articles, and yes, you do get some feedback from readers, but this was people actually live commenting on my articles. And a colleague of mine said to me, just don't read them, because you'll get so involved. And, so I think that was good advice at the time. I learned at that point. But I know that this hurts very deeply. I interviewed a lot of kids and parents, and a parent hurts for the child too. And as much as you try as a parent to protect your child, it's virtually impossible to protect your child.
So you said that a lot of adult bullying probably comes from bullying as a child. The bullies are the same ones who are bullies as kids, and they end up being bullies in the adult world. But what can we actually do about this? Or is it baked in? I mean, is one of those uncomfortable realizations that actually work relationships are not about everybody getting along. It's about extracting value from each other in the most cruel possible interpretation. Right. It's about extracting value from each other and about getting people to do the things that you need them to do in order to generate profits. And sometimes that has nothing to do with how much you care about people, or how nice or how not nice they are. And sometimes the bosses who get the best results aren't necessarily the nicest people in any case.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I think, though, that we were talking about this weekend in a case of how companies treat their staff. I think two things come into play here that's really very interesting. During COVID, staff got to spend more time at home. And I mean, even just after COVID, and even now, people maybe going to the office so many days a week. How many people have you spoken to who you can see on their faces when they say to you, oh, it's so great working from home? And I don't think they mean that they just roll out of bed and it's easier. I think they mean because you haven't got so many of those pressures and that undercurrents that go on in the workplace, and they can, really concentrate on the work. I think that's sort of one side of it. But I do think that companies that are kind to their staff definitely plays a reward. We were talking about a company now that's given a male employee not only the regulatory leave when his wife has a baby later this year, but he went to them and said, well, they've got a thing you can request work at home. So for a month or whatever, he's requested, can he work from home? Obviously, if his work isn't good, they're going to say something. But I think that company I know is particularly kind. And I've seen the results that company gets very good results out of their staff. In fact, interestingly, the subtitle on my book is An Epidemic of Unkindness. So my publisher Brainstorm, in fact, came up with a hashtag be kind, hashtag be kind. And I'm really pushing that. I go to gym and the windows steam up in the morning, and I saw a guy draw a heart the other day and I thought, that's sweet. So I decided I do that now. Every time I go to gym, I write be kind and keep pushing it. I think, and I want to say here that these books don't happen on their own. I don't make money as such out of the books because I think Gareth, I give my proceeds to SADAG, who is an extraordinary organization. That's my pro bono company that I do work for, but also companies like Lundbeck, who sponsored this book. Pharmaceuticals, everyone has a go at them, but they didn't just sponsor it. They're so passionate themselves about it. And they live, I would say they pretty much live their motto. They be kind to their staff. It's a thing. And otherwise, I don't think they would sponsor a book like this because I think they'd be embarrassed if their staff said, hey, sorry, go on.
Can I jump in with a joke here, Marion? I'm just trying to be light. The Be Kind slogan, speaking about women boss, Helen used that. Ellen DeGeneres on her show, Just Be Kind. And she was running a bully environment backstage. And you know how that turned out.
Ironic.
Right. You're absolutely right. And you say it can be that. I mean, we all know people. We've all worked for people like that. Funny enough.
And I think that...
Sorry.
I was just going to say that probably the biggest problem is that these bullies don't realize they're bullies.
No, I was just going to say that one of the stories in the book about a journalist and a particular editor that bullied her, I worked for that editor and I thought she was so nice, but I'm a freelancer. This was a young woman, much younger than her. I was about the same age as this woman, and she really bullied her terribly. So, yeah.
All right,
I thought she was so nice.
So let me be a bit of a bully here and ask the question. I mean, isn't this all just a whole lot of navel gazing and self-absorption and nonsense? And I don't mean the serious situations where people are, close to suicide, or they've been driven into distraction by their bosses, or they're being verbally and emotionally abused every day. I'm talking about just the average person who feels a little bit like a victim because that's become very en vogue. And actually they just need to toughen the hell up, because you know what? Life is not easy, and you're not going to have a boss who holds your hand and shepherds you through life. And you're there to do a job. You're not there to be catered to for your mental health. And actually no one owes you a bloody thing. And if you don't go out there and if you don't go out there and just make it work, no one wants to hear about your problems, frankly. I mean, that's the very hardcore. That's the very hardcore.
There was a video just recently of a young girl who had just started a new job. And she said to her boss, will you take into account the fact that I have time blindness? Now, time blindness is an attribute of ADHD, where you need to set alarms so that you meet certain deadlines. Sometimes you might get so hyper focused on something that you end up being late for something. You're unaware of the time. And this woman employer, and very rightly so, and this is where you have to be so careful of calling someone a bully when they're not. They're just a boss. Said that's what alarms are for. If you can't keep to the time, like coming to work on time, then you can't have a job.
Oh, you see, I don't call that bullying. That's definitely not bullying.
Right.
Look, all the cases in the book, it wasn't. I would never put a case in the book that was just, as Gareth says, something flippant. And I actually turned around at the launch. Katie Katapodis was my conversant, as I've learned the word, is the person that interviewed me. And Katie and I have worked together for many, many years. I was a trainer at 702 training. I've trained young reporters all over the place. And afterwards, I said to Katie, gee whiz, was I a bully? Were we bullies? And when we look back, and things we actually laughed at, because anyone that's trained young journalists today will know what I'm talking about, that it's not always easy, especially when they have no idea. They want to be news reporters, but they have no idea what's going on in the news. Those kind of things. So I guess we all, as Gareth says, toughen up. I can think when I've been a bit of a bully in that regard. And you mentioned the word mental health. And of course, this is to do with mental health as well. You do see the effects. People keep it inside, and flippant or not flippant, we're living in a tough world. Yes, again, as a parent, you want your kids to be able to handle anything. And I think it varies from person to person, how tough they can be. And the world's going to always be like that. Some people are more sensitive. They grow up more sensitive. They're born more sensitive. than others. But I think I'll give you a better example, maybe of be kind. I think an important thing, and I've always been aware of this, is when you go into a supermarket and the teller's ringing up your things. I watch people. I'm a great people watcher. How many people say, thank you, please, when you go to a restaurant? And having been a waitress in my student days, how many people, they'll turn around to the waitron and say, oh, can you bring me this? And then turn back to the people they're with and carry on talking. Or when the food's put on the table, they won't pause for a second and say, oh, thanks so much. That's tiny things. I'm not saying the waitress is going to go into a depression, but, you know.
No, absolutely. And I think that, you know, people they don't have manners. And I think that's a whole different thing. That's not necessarily bullying. It's just an absolute lack of
kindness. If you show your child that you thank people, it definitely rubs off.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I think that there's probably, and that's why I like the subtitle, An Epidemic of Unkindness, because I think that there are a lot of people who go around imagining themselves to be kind. They think, I'm just a tremendously kind person. I'm loving and I'm caring and I sit and talk to people. And meanwhile, all they're doing is talking about themselves. And when they go on the internet, they are complete psychopaths, which is what Bakh'abantu and I were talking about at the beginning of this. But there's another part of this, Marion, that people don't really talk about. And it's not something which, you know, I expect you to give a huge amount of attention to. Your book is an excellent kind of exploration of what's going on in the workplace, in schools, in human interactions, interpersonal relationships. But there's a part of this that bothers me because it used to be fun to go to work and like be able to tease your colleagues or have, you know, inside jokes, or someone asked earlier in the comments about practical jokes. And these days you got to be so careful. You know, it's like, for example, if a guy is interested in a woman who's at work, say it's a huge corporation like a bank or something, and there's a woman in one of the departments who kind of catches his eye. And, you know, in the old days, that would have been potentially the start of a relationship. They might have ended up dating or something, and it would have been absolutely fine. Now, that guy takes his life in his hands if he even makes an approach on her, because it's going to be considered, you know, an inappropriate power relationship. Maybe he advances in the incorrect and not socially acceptable way. Maybe he's too nervous and he bumbles and fumbles and screws it up and then gets into trouble with his boss. There's so many things that used to be fun. And it's almost like because we're treading on eggshells around all of these things, and people can get into serious trouble, that all of that's been removed.
Yeah, I think, look, we all know that political correctness has got to a level where it is ridiculous. I remember when I first went to work, I worked in America, and I was amazed there that, you know, people, I got in a lift. I think this was the first thing with a colleague. And I noticed that all the people were sort of really looking forward. And I mentioned this to her, and she said, well, again, in a lift, in a company, you've got to be so careful you don't rub up against someone or touch someone or say something inappropriate. I learned a lot of stuff there, that you don't tell the sort of jokes that we would tell at work, because in case someone thinks it's inappropriate. Right. But I think at the same time, I hear what you're saying, Gareth, and you're absolutely right. But there is still a thin line between, and this came up a lot, where bullies would say, oh, but I was only joking. We all have in-jokes when you work in a workplace with people. And I think everyone knows where those in-jokes are funny. And I think everyone suddenly feels uncomfortable, generally, when someone goes a little bit too far. You suddenly feel an atmosphere change if someone does go too far. We all have in-jokes. There's absolutely no question about it. But what makes somebody else laugh? At school as a child, I was very thin. So they called me Oxfam, which is kind of stuck with my school friends even now. I mean, but it made me in summer, and occasionally in England, you did have hot days, where I would insist to my parents that I had to wear long sleeves and long, because I was so conscious of the fact I had skinny arms, skinny legs. So it, you know, and I'd laugh along with them. Of course I would. But I think it's that kind of thing. There is a level of hurt. But I don't think you can work in a workplace today without making jokes and having fun. And yeah, I mean,
no, for sure. I mean, what happened? What happened to being in a lift and a man accidentally rubs past your boob by mistake, and you go, do you want to do the other one while you're at it? Or, you know, what happened to that?
But like,
when
back to
life
Gareth's
was
point,
fun.
yeah. back to Gareth's point, like if we are in a workplace, I prefer a world where there are rules. And if we're in a workplace and we all understand that we're here to extract a certain, you achieve a certain outcome or a joint outcome for what profits or for whatever the organization is there. So if there are rules like don't joke, don't do this, just come here, stay in your cubicle and get the intended outcome. It's dreary, but I prefer that. Yeah, it's dreary, but I prefer that where we all know where we stand. We don't laugh, we don't do anything. We just achieve the outcome and we're all successful and you go home and have your personal life and have your jokes. It's terrible, but I prefer that world over the world where a man can touch you and it was just a joke.
No, well, that's an extreme, the boob thing. But I mean, for instance, something we haven't touched on in this country, particularly, well, in fact, all over the world, is racism. And again, when is it funny joke and touching on someone's skin color or their culture, religion, whatever it is, and that person will laugh, but inside, their culture, their race, I mean, it's vile.
Right.
And that's, I think why I've written this book, Gareth, all the books I do, is just to start conversations, honestly. And we noticed it. I'm noticing it already. I mean, the book was only launched last week, but I've already noticed. So if I'm in a social setting the last few days, obviously people want to ask me about the book. And that's what I want. I want people to have conversations. I want the three of you are going to go home today and might mention to someone, something about bullying. And then they might mention to someone else. So that's why I wrote the book. It's just to make us more aware. I mean, this political correctness, I couldn't agree with you more. I'd hate to work in such a sterile organization. That would be vile.
So then
Marion,
let's move.
Gareth and I aren't going home to anyone because we're bullies. We live alone.
I was a bully in high school, apparently.
Again, I mean, the bullies, you said the bullies don't know that they're bullies. So I think everybody's at the moment thinking, oh God, do I fulfill these conditions for bullying? And if I am a bully, how can I repent and make it better? But what can the person who's bullied do about it? Because a lot of people are already feeling terrifically unempowered. They find themselves in situations where they're dependent on a job. Maybe they have to go along with some horrible tyrant of a boss who absolutely is in the wrong. But there's nothing that these people can do about it, and they feel very helpless. What do you suggest those people do, and what does your book say about what the steps can be? What steps can be taken to at least alleviate the situation?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and a lot of people want to know the answer to that. First of all, perhaps the biggest shock I got writing this book, researching this book, was that HR generally are there for the boss. They are absolutely not there for the employee, which is really awful. So you say, obviously people go to HR, but every person I spoke to had a bullying at work situation. HR really let them down. And I spoke to top people in HR. Dr. Ruane Koch was a good example. And he said, and I have to look at it his way as well, it's a lot of, if you are in HR, he said, she said. So on that note, what people can do is every time this happens, if it's something that really is a real thing and not just a oversensitive issue, if it's real bullying, what I was told by the experts is you must keep a record of that, when it happens, how it happens, what happens. And then you've really got something to say, well, look, maybe record instances of bullying, and without going over the top and being ridiculous. But if it's real bullying, for instance, some of the cases, and I'm sure you've all had these kind of instances where someone works hard and they worked hard on a project. They're dying to present this at the meeting that they have every week with all the team and the bosses. They get in there and somebody else has already stolen it and presented it. You would feel so deflated. And that's the kind of thing I've heard. And if that happens once, okay. But if it happens over and over again, But again, it comes down to people wanting to keep their jobs.
And I do think it's interesting that you say the HR department almost always is there for the boss. And I mean, that would make sense because the boss is paying them and the HR department is there to look after the company. But it's interesting also, most of the HR departments are also staffed by women. And when women go to these women in HR with their problems, sometimes they're just rejected out of hand, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't find one instance where HR had actually helped the person concerned. I must say,
But
it was very hard doing.
HR is there to protect the business against litigation.
Yeah, totally. And as Gareth said, that's who pays their salary.
Yeah.
This book took me much longer than other books I've done because people didn't want to come forward and talk. And normally I won't put people in books who won't use their real names because people kind of don't believe it. They think I made the stories up. But this time I had to obviously not use their names. Yeah. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, especially on the teen level and schools. I must just say this horrified me. When I sent emails out to high schools, top high schools in Johannesburg, the ones that we all know, I didn't even get an email reply, which I was absolutely horrified. Just one school in Cape Town, Westerford High School. I want to give a shout out to that amazing school. Not only did they help me and give me interviews, they allowed me time they put together a group of different age high school students for me to speak to without a teacher present. And that was absolutely fantastic. And Alexandra Children's Trust also organized me. Paul Channon, who runs it on a daily basis, an ex-headmaster himself, and he gave me full reign to kids because I needed to speak to kids without a teacher there. And that's who you get the real truth from. But I was really upset that not one of these schools came back to me. They're worried about their brand. God forbid.
That's all it is. Yeah. It's a business.
Yeah. They're worried about their brand. I mean, it's just unbelievable how you hear people talking about their brand, but your brand, if your brand is that you're a nasty, resentful, angry bully, then maybe you should do something about that. I mean, whether it's a corporate brand or your personal brand. And I also think that there are a lot of people who, they'll claim to be to have been bullied because it also gives them a feeling of, they're victims and now they can tell a story about something. Very often they might just be people who are not making a huge difference in the company and people haven't noticed them. And then also you get, you do get those. And then you get those really, really vicious, cruel people who are in charge and who absolutely get like almost a sadomasochistic kick out of being very, very cruel to the people who work for them. They make their lives an absolute misery. They phone them during like supper time. They tell them that they have to be in extra early every other day when they know that they've got 2 or 3 kids to look after at home. They've got to take them to school. They ask and expect outrageous things from them, and those people are regarded as they're just a tough boss, which is nonsense.
Yeah, I got exactly that boss in the book. Got an example of exactly that. In fact, 2 that really match up to what you've just described. And people, again, they don't want to lose their job, so they'll do it.
Yeah, I find it very much being in the freelance market where the client's always right, that kind of attitude.
Yeah.
And you end up falling victim to giving them extra work for the amount of hours that you said you would. That can happen very easily. It's so easy for them to turn back and say, yeah, but we weren't completely happy with what you delivered, so you need to make up for it.
Yeah, being a freelancer, you've got to be tough.
Yeah, you need to set boundaries in the beginning and set expectations and say, I won't be able to do this by Friday because this is a process I'm going to have to follow. Make them understand.
Marion, just before we let you go, was there anything that you discovered in the process of putting this book together that really surprised you? Anything that kind of jumped out and caught you unawares?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One was the HR issue. And I think the parents surprised me that if you're a parent of a bully, what came out was the first thing is they're going to deny, not my little darling, they're not a bully. And I think this is, I suppose it's a general thing. Maybe if I look back to my children, my parents, you never think, your child, as a mother of, 2 grown-up kids now, your children could never do that. But I think you have to, as a parent. That's another conversation I want to happen out of this, is I want parents to look at their child. And when their child is having a party and they leave a kid out, the parent should be saying to that kid, but where's so-and-so? Why haven't you invited them? Maybe get a little bit more involved in looking at your child a bit more objectively. Maybe parents definitely aren't involved enough. And the other thing, the last thing, is schools blame parents and parents blame schools. Parents say the school should handle this, and the schools say parents should handle it. Yeah. And schools and parents are ignoring it. So
and then kids get lost in that missing middle.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I don't have children, because if my kids weren't
always harder.
If my kids weren't extra discriminating about who they invited to their parties, I'd disown them. I'd say, what do you mean you want the whole class to come? There's got to be some real shit children in that class, or you shouldn't be invited.
Money doesn't grow on trees.
What do you mean you want to give everyone cake? Let them eat cake for who?
How are you going to learn to discriminate? How are you going to learn who you can do business with and who you can trust and who you can have a relationship with if you can't choose your friends at this young age? So as a 4-year-old, go and kick some ass. You've only got 10 invitations. You make sure
Gareth,
you leave.
I'm so pleased you're not a parent.
But to a certain degree, kids need to learn. Like, as a parent, if you're looking at it objectively, why didn't you invite Tommy to the party, Bakh'abantu? Then Bakh'abantu responds, I don't like Tommy. And then as an objective, why don't you like Tommy? Take part in your kid's life. And then the kid will explain why I don't like Tommy.
Yeah, then
and
that's
then Tommy's mom needs to explain to Tommy, you're not liked. Not everyone will like you.
Oh God,
So
yeah. You've got to say
you're crying about the party.
Not everyone. Every parent has that you've got to say at some point to your kid when they say, why isn't so-and-so nice to me, or aren't they my friend? Yeah, you've got to do that. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying you've got to invite every kid to, of course not. But it's taken on a new thing, that this social media thing, and kids are doing it because they want to be cool. To be nasty to someone is seen very often today as being cool. I know we're not talking about school bullying, but school bullying and this insidious hiding behind the screen, as you were saying earlier, that someone far, far away can be affected. Hiding behind a screen is cruel. I had one boy at Westerford, he must have been about 16, 17, say what happened. He admits that he really went on a vicious campaign against someone, and it backfired on him, and eventually people turned against him. So, there's two sides to it. And he was the only one that admitted to me in 2 years of research that he'd been a bully.
You need to read this book if you're interested in all the things that Marion has touched on, and there's so much more in it. It's called Big Bully, An Epidemic of Unkindness by Marion Scher. Marion, it's always lovely to have you on, and thank you for sharing your insights with us today. Best of luck with the book. I'm sure lots and lots of people will be fascinated to read it. And as you mentioned, Marion's not doing this so she can sell books. She's actually donating all the proceeds to SADAG, South African Depression and Anxiety Group, who do terrific work. We've also profiled them a number of times on the show. So you will be supporting a very good cause indeed. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you, Marion.
Bye.
Bye.